Today, we continue with part 2 of Means of Grace. We're going to read from the Reformed Confessions first, and then get to the contrast with the Old School Baptists. The Westminster Larger Catechism, 1648, question 154, states, "What are the outward means whereby Christ communicates to us the benefits of his mediation?" And here comes the answer. The outward and ordinary means whereby Christ communicates to us, his church, the benefits of his mediation are all his ordinances, especially the word, sacraments, and prayer, all of which are made effectual to the elect for their salvation. Then we have the quote from John Calvin. God has ordained his word and sacraments as the ordinary means by which grace is dispensed to us. Let us not therefore neglect these instruments, lest we separate ourselves from Christ, who has joined himself to us through them. Whenever we see the word of God purely preached and heard, and the sacraments administered according to Christ's institution, there, it is not to be doubted, a church of God exists. We have the Lutheran view of these means of grace. Therefore, we must hold firmly to the conviction that God will not deal with us otherwise than through the spoken word and the sacraments. Whatever is praised us from the Spirit, without the word and sacraments, is the devil himself. The Formula of Concord, Article 5. God bestows his Spirit of grace upon no one except through or with the proceeding outward word. The Anglican position in 1571 from the 39 Articles of Religion, Article 25. Sacraments ordained of Christ be not only badges or tokens of Christians' men's profession, but rather they are certain sure witnesses and effectual signs of grace and God's will toward us. Richard Hooker's Laws of Ecclesiastical Polity in 1593. The outward ministry of word and sacraments is the instrument of God's grace, whereby we are made partakers of the grace which God himself gives. The Methodist position, John Wesley's sermon, titled The Means of Grace from 1746. By means of grace, I understand outward signs, words or actions ordained of God, and appointed for this end, to be the ordinary channels whereby he might convey to men, preventing, justifying, or sanctifying grace. All who desire the grace of God are to wait for it in the means which he has ordained, in the prayer, in searching the Scriptures, in partaking of the Lord's Supper. But the Old School Baptist perspective is quite different, brethren. Many Old School Baptists rejected the instrumentality of means in spiritual regeneration, but still valued them in sanctification and edification. Beebe in the Signs of the Times, 1850, quote, "The quickening of a sinner dead in his sins is an immediate act of God, independent of all instrumentalities. The word is blessed to the nourishment of the saints, but is not the means of imparting spiritual life." We have Samuel Trott, 1839, in the Signs. "All the means and instrumentalities in the world cannot reach a dead sinner. He must be made alive by the direct voice of the Son of God." Then there's Elder Thomas P. Dudley. In a circular letter to the Licking Association in 1850, "Means of grace, as understood by many, implies man's cooperation in the new birth, which we wholly repudiate. The gospel is food for the living, not life for the dead." So Old School Baptists generally affirm the use of the word, prayer, and ordinances as divinely appointed blessings for the regenerated. But they rejected the idea that these were means of grace in the traditional instrumentalist sense. Their position was nuanced. They denied means as instrumental in the new birth. They affirmed that the word, ordinances, and prayer are profitable for those already quickened. But what did they deny? Old School Baptists strongly rejected the popular use of the phrase means of grace, as it implied mediation, instrumentality, or efficacy in causing spiritual life. We have quotes from 1852, Signs of the Times, Gilbert Beebe. When God quickens the dead sinner, he does it without means. No preaching, no praying, no act of the creature is instrumental. The voice of the Son of God alone gives life. We have another quote from volume 10 of the Signs. The gospel is not the means of communicating life, but it is the joyful sound to the living. And we already read, I think, the quote from Trott. God is not confined to means, nor has he appointed them as the channel of conveying grace, though he may bless the use of them to his children. This is from the Signs of the Times in 1834. So we know what they didn't believe. But what did they affirm? They affirmed that once a person had been born of the Spirit, Old School Baptists highly valued the use of the word, ordinances, and prayer, not as instruments of grace per se, but as appointed ways for the edification and nourishment of the saints. On the preaching, Beebe said, and Trott taught that the gospel is meat for the living, a savor of life unto life, but not the means of regeneration. Quote, the gospel is God's appointed food for the children of God. It comforts, strengthens, and builds them up by the most holy faith. Signs of the Times, 1854. How about the ordinances? They were seen as obediences, public testimonies, and fellowship acts, but not conduits of grace. Participation was limited to those who gave evidence of regeneration and conversion. This is a circular letter from the Catoctin Association of 1853. Quote, we believe the ordinances belong to the church, and none but those born of the Spirit have a right to them, unquote. We have Dudley from the Licking Association. Baptism and the supper are not channels of grace, but symbols of union and fellowship. Brethren, Lord willing, we will continue with part 3 of Means of Grace. May you all be blessed.